Hello and welcome to Modern Art Blitz. This is a special episode. My co-host Lisa Derrick did such a great job on Sunday while I was out at an art fair that I decided I better do a show on my own to just sort of balance the karmic scales. And so here I am. If I could press camera one. Hi, I'm Mat Gleason. Welcome to Modern Art Blitz. So this is our special episode where it's just going to be me and one guest. And that guest is a very long-time friend of mine who's also a very divisive artist. An artist whose art is seeking an ideal that really is maybe where art should be. But in the scheme of things right now, maybe it's a dark period. We're going to get into this. But in addition to working with an amazing career that's currently in a museum retrospective that we're going to be talking about, this guest actually helped me when I first started Coagula Art Journal back in 1992, and in addition to many other capers that I'm sure we could talk about. So I'd like to introduce Max Estenger.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Yeah, sorry, we have an applause. There should be applause for all this. So, yeah, they're in the booth. So, welcome to Modern Art Blitz.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us now if you are looking at your art is behind us here on the screen. You can see there. But tell us, what is it about your minimal aesthetic? Can I call it a minimal aesthetic? That you are committed to, despite the art world's trends and the art world's desire to just go in every other direction than the classic minimalism as we know. Are you a minimalist and you're still committed to this art after 25 years? What's going on?
Am I now, or have I ever been a minimalist?
So what about it is it? What about this minimal aesthetic?
I mean, the art world is always filled with trends, okay? I mean, if you had been doing a certain kind of work in this, 1970s, let's say figurative gestural representation, you would have felt out of it, right? In the height of conceptual and performance art and that kind of work. So, there's always fashions. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in making work that has integrity and that will. I'm in it for the long run. Okay. So, the vagaries of the market are not really something that I'm concerned with. And I think that with what's been going on in the last few years, I think it's okay.
We're looking here at an installation shot of your current museum retrospective. It's been a good week for you, right? Your museum mid-career retrospective just opened. Where did it open?
Okay. Well, it's at one of the most remarkable spaces in the United States for contemporary art, is in Tucson, and it's the Museum of Contemporary Art in Tucson.
And we could do a whole shot here. I didn't mean to disappear you, but I just wanted to give us everybody a look at. This is one of the installation shots of a few that we're going to show, and you're back. So,
yes.
So what's going on? You obviously you have minimal art, minimal installation, but what are you what are we looking at?
So anyway, the show opened on Saturday. I'm based in New York. I went to go do the install, and then I'm here this week in Los Angeles checking things out, my hometown. But I've been in New York for 27 years
27 years.
Yeah, a long time. So anyway, that show in Tucson covers 1991 to 2016. So it's 25 years of art. And museum's really, really wonderful. I had an amazing experience there for 9 days with Jocko Whalen, the curator, and the entire team. And I gave a talk. And so it was just really great. And the show's actually up for a long time, until May 29th.
Oh, that's a really long show.
Yeah.
That's obviously they're committed to this. And
they're kind of like the Dia of the Southwest.
The Dia of the Southwest.
Yeah.
The Museum of Contemporary Art Tucson, or the Tucson Museum of Contemporary Art?
MoCA Tucson.
MoCA Tucson. Yeah. And so we're looking at, it looks like a huge space, and there's other shows going on here too, right?
Well, my show is in the space called the Great Hall. Do you know that's a former fire station.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Tucson fire station. So the
Was
the
there a
trucks
pole?
were parked
The trucks
all
were-
along in there.
There's no pole.
No.
Pole.
Well, the poles are yeah, they're on the second floor going into, but I think they eliminated those. Anyway, and then there's smaller spaces. There's a video installation by another artist, Nicole Miller, and then there's another group show by an organization called Arts for All. So, but the Great Hall is where I have all my work. It's 13 works. Including brand new work. There's 3 works from just the last couple of years.
Okay, so the newest work is there. What's the oldest work in the show?
The oldest work in this show is actually 1987.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wait, but it says, I thought you said it was
Well,
1991.
because that's really what we date, like the see-through paintings from my mature work, but we also added it with a couple of works that were done before that particular body of work that kind of foreshadows pretty much the concerns that I would have for the next 25 years.
Wow. Okay, so what are we looking at here? That's actually a sculpture.
Yes.
There. Now that's. I mean, I'm primarily familiar with your wall work. What is the sculpture that we're looking at on the left?
Well, that is a site-specific piece that we built at the museum, and it's based on the absolute one-to-one exact scale replica of a New York City subway station, token booth.
The token booth.
Right.
Okay, so it has the door to get in.
Yes. But then I raised the screen partition, you know, that's usually glass, where you can talk to the person. I raised that to sort of get rid of access. Unless you're 6'5", you can't really look inside.
Okay.
And that's with my customary wood and polyvinyl.
It definitely references a lot of your other work.
Right.
So where did the idea to have polyvinyl clearly, so where you can look in and see the stretcher bars of the work, what is the genesis of that?
You know, it really wasn't such a concern about like, oh, I want to show the stretcher bars. It was really a way to, I got to a point when I said, okay, what can you do to open up this language of abstraction, right? So some people got stuck on the monochrome, right? One color, one panel, and what I want to do was sort of explode that. And so what I decided to do is let's open the work up out to the site where it's exhibited or where it's sitting. So you get reflections it changes from what time of day it's at, or you know what the particular site is, whether it's a home or a gallery or an institution. So it changes. It becomes this playful integration of the environment and the work.
And yet it's as minimal as any minimal painting there could be, right?
Yeah, you really like that word minimal, don't you?
Well, give us another word.
You know, I just say abstract, you know?
So you consider yourself an abstract painter who works minimally?
Matt, I think of minimalism as a sculptural movement. You know? So I think of Judd and Andre and Flavin as sort of the high minimalist artists, and then I think of other people, let's say Robert Ryman, Robert Mangold, and then people that are closer to my own generation, the late Stephen Perino. You know Stephen Perino's work, where he would take the monochrome and then take it off the stretcher and then rehang it and create this kind of like strange
hybrid.
Yeah. So I consider that sort of critical abstract painting that's engaged with the material. Critical engagement with the material practices of that art form.
Do you
starting with Malevich, going all the way to Mondrian, Newman, and then of course Ryman and Martin and people like that.
What year is the picture we're looking at here?
Oh, well, you know, this painting is about 30 paintings that I did where I finally wanted to just explore color, and you know. These are from the mid 2000s, so 2006.
Okay.
And some of them are very large. This one is about 130 by 40 inches tall.
Wow.
Yeah, and some of them get up to 200 inches. Yeah.
Wow. And so, is there any rhyme, reason, or pattern for these colors
Yeah.
selected?
Well, I always devise a simple system. you can just go, well, right here. Okay, oh, watch, there we go. So it goes from like 1 inch to 2 inch to 4 inch to 8 inch to 16 inch, and then it repeats. So it really just allows me to kind of intuitively place colors next to each other, do a lot of revision, change them, and it was really a break from the kind of work I had been doing, where the emphasis was on materiality and these kind of formal structures. So here it was like, okay, yeah, this ready-made thing of color bands or stripes, if you want, but I'm doing something, you know, structured with it also.
Okay, so this came after the see-through paintings, right?
Yeah, the see-through paintings were 91, 92.
Okay, so and is this sculpture is this recent?
Yeah, well, it's funny because this sculpture was sort of simultaneous with the color band paintings, and I did a bunch of these where the work was sheetrocked, and then it was mudded and sanded, and it was almost ready to be painted. It was completely ready, and then of course I didn't paint them.
Ah.
Yes. So they function a lot like the way I use raw canvas, which is that I just leave the raw canvas as raw canvas.
So you've done a lot of work with raw canvas.
Yes. Yes.
And so basically it's a sculpture waiting to be painted.
Well, but there's a plexiglass top there, lid that's painted, a red orange band, and then you can look down into the box. There's a super shiny oil gloss paint in that box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And how tall is this?
That's right up 3 feet, 3 feet tall. Yeah.
And is the structure based on anything other than just your enjoyment of making this space? I mean, there's no reference?
They came in a lot of odd shapes and sizes, but this, because of shipping reasons, and we knew that we were going to build the booth, which would be the large sculpture, we thought that this would be a good indexing of what, you know, the booth is, and so that.
So this is a new one? This is a new piece?
No.
Oh,
this is from 2005.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I think you have an Osha painting somewhere there, which we could get into.
Okay, so
green and orange.
This is a good see-through painting, and
yes.
and I do want to point out that where am I going here? Ooh, right there in the middle. That's you taking the picture, actually.
Well, not me, but the photographer.
The photographer.
I hired a photographer. Is that all right?
I will let you get away with it just one time, sir. If you were stretching this, you've actually ended up with a square, but because you have rectangles with squares in them, is there some kind of let's do a whole shot here. Is there some kind of proportion to this piece?
It does. This is a 70 by 70 inch painting. Okay, and there's 4 panels. There's the top panel, which is polyvinyl stretched over the wood, and then there's 2 small squares in the middle.
The black squares.
The black squares. That's acrylic. They're acrylic painted squares, and then the bottom panel right there is also clear.
So it is a painting because you have paint on canvas on the black
and it has
squares.
a reference to the stretcher bars. You can see the hardware that they're painting. You even see the hardware up there that secures that from falling off into the viewer, which might be fun, but
depending on who you hit in the head, right?
Right. If it's a museum trustee, it's not cool.
That's never cool. Cool.
But all the museum trustees in Tucson are really fun.
You had a good experience with Tucson?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the 33rd largest city in the United States, but this institution is way beyond that kind of number, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's
definitely.
good to hear.
Yeah.
And you worked with Jocko Whalen, who's also an artist, right?
Yes.
Now, how long you've known Jocko a long time?
Yes. I knew Jocko since graduate school at UC San Diego.
Wow, I didn't realize you went to graduate school with Jocko.
No. Jocko was an undergraduate.
Oh, he was an undergraduate.
Yeah.
So were you?
I was his teacher, his TA.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now this is an Osha painting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so explain what an Osha painting is.
Well, OSHA refers to the Occupational Safety and Health Act. So in the workplace, you have to have mandated colors to signify certain things. So if it's fire equipment, it has to be a sort of red, bright red. If it's dangerous parts, it's going to be orange. If it's anything to do with radiation, it's purple. So they have all these signifying functions. So it's I decided to reintroduce some sort of subject matter into the work. The work has content, it always has content, but this was sort of overt subject matter. So this is Osha orange, and over there is, I'm sorry, the other way, is Osha green. And
Okay.
all of this is raw canvas here, stainless steel there, the clear over wood there, some more paint, that's orange.
Now, what is
Osha.
OSHA orange for? Is that a caution?
I think it's dangerous parts.
Dangerous parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So-
then, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels.
Okay, so like basically OSHA, what it did, the government was making the color
Yes,
choice here.
yes.
They mandate you can't paint it a bright green. You have to paint it OSHA green.
Right,
It's a
right.
specific hue
Right.
of green.
Right.
It can't be a lime, can't be a chartreuse
Right.
or OSHA. Yeah. Okay. So what you're really there seems to be a commentary here on like you're not making the decision. Someone has already made the
Yes.
decision about these things.
Yes.
But you're not making a painting about caution. You're making a painting about color, line, shape, form, correct?
Sure. But if incidental to that is this extra aesthetic meaning, then that's fine. And it was ironic also that in this age of, this is the dawn of the post-industrial age, right? 1994,
Okay.
95. So it is ironic that I was referencing these industrial
You were
colors.
right when industry had peaked.
Exactly.
You were actually investigating, like almost as a maybe a memorial to it. Like
Sure.
these
sure.
are the remnants of it.
And what was one of the seminal painters, abstract painters of the preceding decade, Halley, right?
Peter Halley.
was dealing with post-industrial space. So that I was having a little bit of fun with that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So and do you enjoy living in the post-industrial world? Has it been good to you?
The post-industrial world has been very.
No, but I meant as an artist. I mean,
You know, it doesn't really inform my practice that much in terms of the actual work, because I really am dealing with materiality and the real thing. I mean, you go to that show in Tucson, these are real objects. These are real things that are about materiality. They're about transparency. They're about opaqueness. They're about hard and soft. They're about shiny and matte. I mean, these are things that the work is informed by.
wow. So you're looking at the world. You're looking at art as separate from the world, or as part of the world.
That's why it's part of the world, right?
You tell
That's why
me.
we're sitting
Well,
here.
So much art deals with the personal issues of the artist. It deals with autobiography. It deals with emotion laden into the paint. And I don't see any impasto here, in impasto paint. And I'm wondering if there is a overarching, removal from life here, or if there's something greater going on in your work.
It's part of life. It is another aspect of life. I mean, I don't see how you can divorce one or the other. Now, whether you find the work wagging its finger about the billionaire class, or something
Politicking
like,
or
no,
emoting.
it doesn't do that. But it does have values. The whole idea of making over 30 works that are strictly about transparency, that's a statement. That's a value about transparency, and that can be extended into almost every aspect of life and society. It's just not so obvious.
So you
know?
don't mind, for metaphor, do you want the viewer to bring in their own?
Sure, they can do whatever they want.
They can do whatever you want.
They can do whatever they
They can
want.
do whatever they want.
You know what Rothko said, Matt?
What did Rothko say?
That when you bring this work out into the world, you know, it's like a child. You do everything you can, you raise it, in the artist sense, you create it, and then you put it out there, and it does whatever it wants to do, or whatever is done to it. So you have no real say beyond that initial making, at least on a fundamental level of the response.
I'm actually fascinated with that idea, because you seem to want to, you let it go into the world. There are artists that just want to control the context, that make demands of the viewer, that demand a certain education level, steeped in theory. I believe that a lot of the art programs out there, the graduate schools, sort of convince artists to really control the context. And out in the world, have you ever been misunderstood to a level, like somebody misunderstands your work? You know, at a show, do they? I mean,
well, it happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah,
sure. But I think that this kind of work, you can, if you bring honest sort of feelings towards it and no predisposed baggage about being intimidated or hating it, I think that you can, you know, you don't have to be steeped in post-war abstract modernist theory, from Greenberg to Fried to Krauss to Judd, to get it. On the other hand, if you want to understand all that stuff, I talked about all those writers during my talk. In fact, I quoted all those writers during my talk. And I contextualized the work just to give, because I was giving a presentation for people who were very interested in the work. There were museum people, there were academics from the community, so, you know, and artists. So I wanted to give them where I was coming from, and then they can sort of make their own judgment about what that work is.
And let's also talk now. You made it into your first museum collection recently.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me about that. How was that?
That was good. It's a work was acquired by the Museum of Contemporary Art in San Diego.
The MCA San Diego?
Yeah, which is really good because I went to graduate school there, and I think I've been back to San Diego 2 times since 1988.
Wow.
And it's a lovely town, and I love that museum in La Jolla.
It's a
I
great,
think that's
great,
one
great
of the
museum.
most
Artists I've worked with have shown there, and to great acclaim. It's a good crowd shows up, an educated crowd, and they're not interested in art as an aside to their Louis Vuitton bag. I mean, they really like the art. They want to get engaged with the art. There's a diversity of what they show, but there does tend to be a kind of reputation there of this kind of
serious. Here we go. Serious modernist abstraction.
Serious modernist abstraction.
Right. Yeah. In
SMA.
Fact, what did you say?
SMA, serious
yes,
modernist.
Serious abstraction.
Yeah.
And they have a long history with people like Irwin and Mangold. In fact, one of the seminal shows that I saw, I think I was like 19 or 20, was going down there to see his 1985 mid-career retrospective at La Jolla. And it was like, oh, okay.
Who was that?
Mangold,
Robert Mangold, okay.
I said, oh, this is what's possible with this. You sit down and take this vocabulary and you work with it and you expand it. And I think that, you know, that's what I've tried to do over my career.
Well, there's certainly, what I always found interesting, I think it was a Franz Klein quote, was somebody critiqued the Barnett Newman show. And they said, well, they're just stripes. And Franz Klein said, how wide are the stripes? What color are the stripes? How many stripes are there? There's a lot going on there, you know.
And the guy said it's all the same.
It's which
wasn't true.
Yeah, which was not true.
Right.
And I do, to me, that's always been the fascinating thing about SMA, structural.
Serious. SHMA.
Serious.
High-minded, modernist.
You know, you got too many. Hamas? Are you a Hamas? Okay, we don't want to. Oh, geez.
But one thing I'll say, one thing I'm going to say about meeting the people in Tucson in the museum there, and tomorrow I'm actually going down to San Diego to meet with the museum that acquired the painting in San Diego. But I've only talked to them, and I had to sort of it was sent back to my studio in Brooklyn, and then I refurbished it, etc. It's one of the see-through paintings. But I will say one thing. It seems to me that unlike New York, where the curators and the establishment there, a lot of times, they don't really have a good eye for art. They have a good ear for art. And I find the case that as I get away from New York, it's much less about, people are much more open to ideas that aren't just dictated by what their trustees told them to show and what the market has told them is valuable. And I think that's very refreshing. And I think as we get decentralized through technology and through all these other platforms, I think the hierarchy is breaking down.
Well, I've always been in favor of the hierarchy breaking down. So let's talk about these two paintings. These are pretty old work for you, right?
Yes. Yes.
So which we have there's one on the left is a bit of, now these are not Osha colors, right?
No. So this was my initial, before the painting on the left, which is yellow and white. I had always tended to have just a few forms, but they were always blobby and non-geometric. And so with that painting, that sort of set the course for what I was. So it was 1987, and I painted that in graduate school, and it really set the course for what I would do ever since then. Now, and you see, it's multiple panel, okay, but there's fragmentation, but it's all put back together. There's a recession in the middle. Those panels have are skinnier or less depth than the others.
And then at the very top, the canvas, there's actually a little chunk missing.
Yeah. And if you notice, the little chunk missing at the bottom
it's reflected as a painted surface.
Exactly. Yeah. So you have the virtual and the actual sort of mimicking each other.
Okay. Yeah. And then we have on the next to it with the red squares. What year is that?
That's from 1989. That's a series that I started in graduate school, and I continued for my first year in New York.
And that's a raw canvas, right?
Yes. So raw canvas, and now you have an extra panel at the bottom that whatever size and shape those little panels at the top are, that's what size and shape the bottom painted red squares are. And then there's a tiny little red square inside the little square, so that takes up as much of that as the red does. So it's completely reciprocal, is what I'm saying.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot of and it's a lot of proportions too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's a way to get at composition once you do one, and then the whole series does itself.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are you interested? Does that have anything to do with automation? Are you trying to automate the painting process?
No, I'm not trying to automate the painting process. I was just trying to make. I like clarity and order and structure. And there's a value right there. Is the world like that? No, the world is. So yes, there is an idealized space within my work.
You want, obviously, you're an idealist to make art like this.
Sure, I would plead guilty to that, unabashedly.
Unabashedly. Well, this has been a fun conversation. Can you really looking back on 25 years? Now you have to look forward. Yeah. Are you worried about topping yourself, or is there less ideas that you have to worry about now that you have so many of them already articulated? Or are there going to be, over the next 25 years, just as many ideas coming out in the visual language of Max Estenger?
No, actually, quite the contrary. Like right now is the moment of new possibility. I have work all over right now in group shows at the University Art Museum in Denver. They have a show called Learning to See Color. So I have a painting there that's a big Osha painting. And they were very interested in the idea of this Osha painting in terms of another use of color. It's a really fascinating show. They have everybody from Frankenthaler to Warhol to Albers to Kehinde Wiley.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's about color, right?
Wow.
And So it's a very interesting show, and there's a show in New York at John Malloy Gallery where the whole idea is to put the work that people like me are doing with next to Native American art from the 1880s.
Wow! Wow!
Yeah.
Now, what's the connection?
Because there's a lot of geometric motifs in that Native American plains art, etc. You know, we've always thought about the sand artist and more of that organic, amorphous kind of stuff, but there's also this tradition of geometric stuff. Yeah.
Wow. So, and I like the John Malloy Gallery. It's actually a townhome.
Yeah.
And now is that a trend in New York, or was it always like that? And the big new galleries are the trend. The townhome galleries, are there a lot of them in?
There's a few. And they're all on the Upper East Side. Right next door, there's the spectacular Manouchian Gallery. They really do over-the-top exhibitions. So yeah, I mean the Malloy space is smaller, but there's something wonderful about that kind of domestic, scale.
Well, I think
art.
too. Also, I mean, seeing as I am part of the market, I can say that the fact that people can see art in a domestic setting, like they are going to take that art home and hang in their own apartment, probably has an appeal. But let's not talk about the market and ruin an otherwise pristine interview.
Yes. So anyway, I'm very much looking forward. I actually can't wait to get back to the studio and just push on ahead, because I mean, let's face it, we're all human beings and we need encouragement, and certainly what's been happening the last few years has been very encouraging for me. And there will be a catalog to this exhibition. It's going to be out in about 2 to 3 weeks. We wanted to have it all about that beautiful space in Tucson, so of course it was shot the day after the installation was completed, and it's all being put together right now. So you can contact the museum to find out the availability of it, but it will be available soon.
Now, if you're watching this on YouTube 10 years after we filmed it in February of 2016, I can't help you. You can look on the rare book collection. Or maybe it's a bestseller by then, and it's in its 20th printing. So
Tashin.
You spelled the name wrong.
It'll be Tashin.
They spelled your name wrong. Sorry.
Where?
I apologize. Your name appeared. It's Estenger. Sorry about that, Nolan.
Estenger. Call right now, Richmond 95179.
There we go. Now there it is. There it is.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Max Estenger, artist. So
please change that on the subsequent rebroadcast.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. So now we've talked a lot about your show, and I guess I had one last question before we move into the next segment, and that is, where all of your art is about the seduction of the object. I don't see anything in a digital age digitally from you. It seems to me, and I think to the person just being introduced to the art, that there might be some kind of digital notion in all of this. That there might be, with the geometry and all that sort of stuff, if there might be some digital way for you to express yourself. Why is the art of Max Estenger not digital?
Because I think certain things have a dialectical representation in society, and so sure, I think that as things get more digital, I think what do we have? We have an even higher fetishization of the handmade of that object.
Okay.
And these paintings are handmade. I mean, they're not industrial objects like a Koons.
Like a Jeff Koons puppy dog.
Yes.
Yes, I understand. Okay. Well, I just wanted to. I wanted to clarify that, and I have always admired your idealism when it comes to art. So we've known each other.
God, I feel like I'm sitting.
It's like we're a live broadcast from the museum.
Wow,
right?
I think we should just leave it right there, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's been there. It's been there for a lot of the show.
Yeah.
So we've been acquainted for many years now, And I think a lot of people who tune into the show, it's my show, I'm always interviewing guests, and I don't know that there is anybody maybe more eminently qualified to interview me than you, as far as, when did we meet? I remember, do you remember?
We met in the year 1978.
1978, yes. We've been friends, as I recall.
And by the way, we were in high school, and we were very young. We were freshmen.
We were freshmen in 78.
Yeah.
So
let's not.
Of 78.
When you say 78, they're going to think that we were like 27 or something.
No. We were not.
We're not that old.
No. We were young and naive.
Yes.
So now we go way back. Now the thing that I've done that is probably most well known in the world, that had whatever impact it had. It's often hard to toot one's own horn when put on the spot.
No, you know what? Let me handle this.
Okay.
So Mat Gleason, what he's really, his most important contribution to the discourse of art was this journal called Coagula that he's had since 1992.
Yeah, 1992. April of 92 was the
first issue. And I remember the very first issue. I was working for a gallery in New York, in Soho, and that gallery was traveling to the Chicago Art Fair, which back then, that was the big art fair.
That was the big art fair. There was no Miami Basel. Yeah.
And it was in May, okay?
And it was in May. It was at the Navy Pier.
Yeah, the Navy Pier. And Matt told me that he wanted to, and this, we had actually talked before this, we had talked about this underground art newspaper, and I think the thing is, you gave it the title Coagula, didn't you?
I came up with the word Coagula, but it was based on a conversation we had.
Yeah.
Max and I, there was a couple names for Coagula before Coagula actually became Coagula. I was going to call it the Irascible, and that was as an homage to the Irascibles, the abstract expressionist painters who stood up to some of the conventions that were going on in the 50s. But what I realized is that might tie it into an aesthetic, which is something I didn't want. And then, so Max and I talked more, and then I had the idea to call it Art in Your Face. And then literally a week later, Helter Skelter opened, the Helter Skelter exhibit opened at MoCA, and the LA Weekly had Chris Burden's Medusa's head on the cover, and and it literally said, Art in Your Face. And it was, okay, back to the drawing board. So Max and I in a conversation, Max said, you need to call it a word that will really get the idea through that this is not LA versus New York, that this is LA and New York coming together, that when you pick up this magazine, you're immersed in the real art world and not some segmented section of it, which was really like, okay, that really helped me focus. And so then when I thought about coming together, I thought of coalescing, and then I thought of coagulating, and then I thought Coagula would be the perfect name for it.
It was a brilliant name.
Thank you.
And I even felt what I like is I tried to give it the tagline name.
Yeah.
And it was something about like this, it was kind of like the zeitgeist, but I gave it some kind of tagline.
Yeah.
But that didn't stick.
No.
We even put a phonetically right?
Coagula.
Yeah.
Yes. We had to make sure everyone could pronounce it, because I've been called Caligula more times than the emperor himself.
So, not to mention your personal life.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, so what I did in New York was round up a bunch of people. I worked in a gallery. Other people worked in galleries. I knew some critics, obviously. And they sort of started cooking up articles, and they all contributed to the first issue. The first issue comes out, and Matt brings it to the Chicago Art Fair, and Matt starts passing it out. Go ahead, to booth.
I was just walking booth to booth. Hey, here's this magazine, Coagula. It's about the LA and New York art world. And actually, by then we had 2 issues out.
Oh, okay.
And because I know the 3rd issue of Coagula was about the Chicago Art Fair, but I walked into Matthew Marks's booth, the Matthew Marks Gallery, and handed it to them, and he looks up and he goes, "Where can I get a subscription to this? I saw this, and I really wanted this. I really want to get this regularly." And I was like, "Oh yeah," and I think we even had a subscription thing, but it was like, it was like, oh wow, like people really, this is good. This is a really good sign.
How long did he subscribe to Coagula?
Oh, a couple years. Yeah, a couple years. And then, of course, our most famous subscriber was David Jones. For years, there was a very loyal subscriber named David Jones. And then it turned out that David Jones is the real name of David Bowie. And so Bowie subscribed for almost a decade.
Bowie was a huge fan.
Yes, he
Huge
actually
fan.
he actually wrote a review. We have an anthology of the first 5 years of Coagula, in which Max's writing features quite prominently.
Called
others.
Most Art Sucks.
The book is called Most Art Sucks, and David Bowie wrote a review of the book and a rave review. It's still the highlight of my life. But when the first issue came out, the biggest story at the time was how Jerry Brown, then running for the Democratic primary, would be the best president for the arts, and that Bill Clinton would be the worst. And it was written under a pseudonym by that guy right there. And,
I was for Jerry. I was part of a We the People campaign in 1992.
Wow. And
Yeah.
you gave him the $5 like everybody, was it?
100.
Okay.
That was the
okay.
limit.
The limit was he could only
$100.
take $100.
And it's funny because he had been my governor as a kid, right, in California. And then here he was. I went to see him at the New School in New York right before the New Hampshire primary, like in December of '91. And I said, this is the guy. This is the guy expressing exactly how I feel. And, you know, this was not fun times in New York. You know,
This was the David Dinkins era.
yes. But, you know, you had just had the highest murder rate in the history of the city, 2,000 murders in 1990.
Wow.
You had the crack epidemic. You had
Whoa,
AIDS.
everything
still.
just went out. Oh, okay. Are we back? Oh, it was out there on this TV. Okay, sorry. So you had the crack epidemic.
You had the AIDS epidemic.
AIDS
in
with
full.
ACT UP was really politically
Yes,
involved
exactly.
then. It was
here you had Jerry like okay, defiant. We've got to do things about. I mean, everything he said about wealth and the campaign, the insidious influence of money in politics. Of course, he's been right.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that that's not the same Jerry Brown who runs California today. I mean, the guy is very fascinating that way, isn't he?
He's a political animal first and foremost. He's from an old political family, and one can be an ideologue, one can be an idealist, but one can be a political animal and he's very pragmatic. He understands, you know, to get elected, he had to do certain things, he had to make certain promises, and they are probably not optimum. But I mean, is he doing a good job in California? I think things here have improved, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I always wonder about him, and I don't want to about Jerry Brown, but since we're talking to somebody who's lived here for all these years, I mean, don't you think that like his charm factor has worked against him in terms of maybe greater? I mean, they say that if he had been 10 years younger, right now he'd be the front runner.
He would be the leader for president right now if he was 10 years younger. I think the charm factor, the absence of a charm factor with Jerry Brown, actually worked for him in saying, like, look, I'm not just a pretty guy here who's going to tell you what you want. I'm real serious. I'm here to go to work. I'm not here to tell you stuff that's not true. So
I want to get back to Coagula though, because people really hated you. I mean, you know, so after Matt was launched, I kind of gave him a really great person in New York who took over, Charlie Finch, who's a very controversial figure in New York, and so my involvement was just to sort of cheerlead and you know.
Well, you wrote there are occasional articles. There are occasional articles in Coagula you will find that Max wrote under a variety of pseudonyms. Sometimes I have a hard time, but you can always spot his prose because he's very much Max Estenger when he writes is very firm. He knows exactly what he's saying. He nails the critical word to the wall. I wish you wrote more, frankly, but
you don't pay me enough, Matt.
Hey,
and New York's not cheap,
yes,
as you know.
I got Ariana. I got to jump on Ariana Huffington about not paying writers.
So, but what I want to know is how were you able to sustain yourself with so much? Like people. I mean, I would come out to California and visit here, and people would literally like just recoil from you in horror. Like how were you able to sustain that?
I just never lost any it never bugged me. I knew I was doing the right thing, publishing the magazine I published. I had drinks thrown in my face, and I had people kick me out of their galleries. I was banned from many galleries. A few of them are still around, but most of them are closed. And I really think that very few times did I ever think, crap, I had very few regrets. Anybody who says they have no regrets is full of shit. But I had very few regrets, and and history's proven me right, because I certainly, I look at the way the media covers art now, with the blogs especially, and I was quite. I was just ahead of that curve. I think I was lucky. I knew desktop publishing was really the technology of its time. Now anybody can start a blog. At the time, and
But wouldn't you say that of all the industries that are mega billion-dollar industries, that's the one industry that still eludes the kind of scrutiny that really it should have? I mean,
what do you mean?
The art industry.
Oh, the art industry.
In terms of auction houses and manipulations and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, there's more and more there's more coverage now than there's ever been of the arts, and more scrutiny. And I think it's inspired. Recently Orrin Hatch said he's going to be looking at a lot of these rich collectors who start their own foundations and donate their art to the foundation and get write-offs. So there's, I think, without the scrutiny of the art media in the last 10 years, I don't know that you'd have that. But
you were certainly at the forefront of it. There's no question about that. And the other question I would have for you is, after your anthology, it's almost sort of like, you've had a few incarnations of a gallery, but never one now as strong as Coagula Curatorial. Why do you think this particular incarnation of you actively involved? First of all, why would you choose to become part of the art distribution system instead of just as a journalist? Why did you do that?
Oh, well, a lot of it basically was there just isn't the money in publishing that there once was, and it's. Sorry.
That's a very honest answer.
No, sorry.
That's the kind of answer you'd get from Trump, like non-political.
No. There's
politicalese.
I was going to, as magazine publishing started, I saw the writing on the wall, and the thing about the web was you disappear on the web as much as you appear on the web. And so I thought I'd do a book publishing company, and by the time I was really ready to publish my first book, some of the people who I had picked their brains about how they were publishing were picking my brain about how I was publishing. And I thought, the iPad and everything, book publishing, So that's when I said, I do know the art market. I don't have to learn the book. I'm going to learn the book business that's dying, but I do know the art market, and it probably has a few years left. So that's when I started the gallery, and I leveraged a lot of relationships that I had to sort of cut in line. One thing I'm really glad I did is I did it at the bottom of the recession. I opened in April of 2012, and then, I got tons of press. Now there's galleries opening every month. Right now things are hot. They're not getting. How do I get press for my gallery opening? Because there's just too much going on now.
Yeah.
So
the fact that Matt had this huge piece in the Los Angeles Times, a publication that hated him. I'm not exaggerating. Literally, somebody there would have been fired if they had, a few years ago, before the tables turned.
Oh yeah.
If they had written about you, or probably even expressed something positive about you.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal.
Well,
do you feel like an insider now?
I got accused recently of being powerful. And it was like the weirdest thing, because I don't feel any power. My show's not sponsored by Budweiser. It's just, it was fascinating to see somebody else's perception. And people have said, oh, you're an insider. And I don't feel that way at all. But I certainly, I certainly know more now than when I started Coagula. And I certainly, I've been around a long time, so I have maybe an accrued wisdom. But I don't feel like the art world inside is any less elusive. But I've learned that there are people who have that insider knowledge. 2 years later, they're an outsider.
Right.
You'll find out when you reach the top, you're on the bottom
That's a quote from an old bard. You know, and one thing that I want to say is that Matt and I bonded initially over our mutual love of underground punk rock music that was going on at that time in England and in Los Angeles. And that ethos, it's interesting because in the catalog essay that's going to be coming out on me from Tucson, Jocko makes the connection between the kind of work I've made and this punk ethos. And I think certainly Coagula and what you've been doing at Coagula Curatorial is still part of that aesthetic. Even if the refinement you might find in my work, you would initially say, oh no, it's got to be like sloppy, you know, Roger Herman dogs, but it's actually kind of rigorous, in your face, no compromise.
Yeah, well, the no compromise is definitely the punk ethos, and that's maybe that's why nothing ever bothered me with the criticism of what I was doing, because I knew people were always picking up my magazine, and yes, that refusal to compromise, because there was no reason to. What is compromising going to get you anyway?
Right.
I see artists compromise all the time with their aesthetic, with their talent, with their vision, and it gets them nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Or it gets them a short-term gain, and then in the long term you go, ugh.
All right. Well, Max, I want to thank you for being on the show. I'm glad we caught you while you were in LA.
Yeah.
One of my best friends that I've ever had, and he certainly is living in his moment right now, and onward and upward, hopefully for us both. This is Modern Art Blitz. It's been a special edition of Modern Art Blitz. We are usually live at 5 Pacific every Sunday. Sunday at 5 Pacific, Modern Art Blitz is live. We usually have our co-host Lisa Derrick here. She'll be back Sunday. We'll have 2 guests. Thanks to Max Estenger. Thanks to Abel Alejandre for designing our great logo. Where'd it go? There it is. Woo! Thank you.
Bye-bye.